what led to 2007? Because there are those on the left who will say, look, he's not trying to de-develop anything. That, they'll say Bush did that or whatever, and they'll do a bumper sticker line. But bottom line, they'll say 2007, that was a Republican, that was a conservative, that's trickle down economics, that's what caused the crisis. So you had this incredible boom, but then you lost it all because of the economic crisis that's inevitable with this, and that's why we need a more durable economy under a President Obama. Peter.
Well, the causes of the economic crisis are a very important issue that needs to be intelligently examined. But you won't find any evidence of that throughout most of American media. You won't find any intelligent discussion because they don't want you to know the truth of it. But it was due to excessive government overregulation that forced the banks to make loans they did not want to make in the name of fairness. They're saying it's unfair that that low-income people can't buy houses like high-income people. It's unfair. It's unfair that you can get a loan, a mortgage, just because you can't pay it back. It's unfair. That was the liberal argument. So they forced banks to give loans to people who couldn't pay it back under threat of lawsuit. It was considered discrimination. It was considered redlining, and banks would be penalized and threatened with lawsuits if they didn't make these loans. And the government subsidized making these loans, and this was really launched in the whole structure of how this terrible financial crisis was created is actually very complex, and it's something that's been hidden. I discuss it in my book in great detail, America's Ticking Bankruptcy Bomb. I've talked about it in my columns at Forbes.com. But there were two causes. One is excessive overregulation. The government forced these banks to abandon their traditional lending standards because it was unfair that people who were too poor to get mortgages, who couldn't get mortgages because they couldn't pay them back, that was considered unfair, and they were browbeaten and threatened with lawsuits, and regulations required them to make these loans. The second cause was precisely the Fed destabilizing the currency, and conservatives at the time objected to both these policies, and of course, they were ignored in the mainstream media, so-called mainstream media, which is not mainstream at all. But the Fed destabilized the currency. It started the low interest rate policy early in the 2000s. For 3 years, interest rates were actually negative when you count inflation. What is a negative interest rate? A negative interest rate is a subsidy to borrow more. And so it encouraged more borrowing, excessive leverage, and made the financial system vulnerable to the housing bubble popping. So the regulations caused this housing bubble by forcing banks to pump more money into the housing sector, to make more loans into the housing sector. And the Fed's easy money policy, zero interest rate policy, encouraged more money to flow into housing. And so this created the housing bubble, which inevitably had to pop. And, the high leverage that was encouraged by the zero interest rates made the financial system vulnerable to all of this. So the thing is, you got to understand how this lines up with the pro-growth policies that Reagan followed and created the economic boom, because these are both departures. They were from Reagan's policies. So there was not the big lie is, the Democrats have it organized, and anything that's pro-growth caused the problem, the financial crisis in the first place. This is their thinking. And until American people wake up, you might as well go to Argentina, because that's where we're going as long as these liberal Democrats are in power. Just go live in Venezuela, go live in Argentina, because America's turning into that, and we're going to be that.
Unless we step up, and we got to step up.
Components that Reagan campaigned on to create economic growth and prosperity. One is to reduce tax rates, to give people incentives for more capital investment, to start businesses, expand businesses, and create jobs. So you lower tax rates, that gives people a reward for their hard work and their production, and allows them to keep more of what they produce. So that encourages them to produce more. So you lower tax rates. You reduce regulatory burdens, because that stops the economy from growing, it stops businesses from growing. You want to lower regulatory burdens. You want to reduce government spending, deficits, and debt, because they drain funds out of the private sector. And you want stable money, because that gives the people the confidence and the incentive to invest because they know what they're going to get paid back when their investments are successful will be worth the same dollars that they invested in the first place. And those were the four policies that led to the Reagan boom. Now, if you look at what Obama's done, he's done the opposite of every one of those four policies. Instead of lowering tax rates, he's increased the tax rates of almost every federal tax. Instead of reducing regulation, he's increased I call him the regulation president. He has done more to increase regulation than any other president in the country because, after all, these people are progressive Democrats, which means, according to them, they know everything, and you know nothing. So, according to them, you're Homer Simpson, and they are the wise geniuses that need to guide you to the promised land. Mm-hmm. And so he's massively increased regulation, and he's massively increased the Obama Democrats in the first 2 years until the House Republican majority was elected, in fact, and basically shut down the spending spree. He had the most rapid spending increase in American history during the first 2 years when the Democrats were entirely in power. A lot of the yelling and screaming here in Washington is because there is this House Republican majority that has stopped them from spending nearly as much as they want to. And for actually a couple of years, you actually have spending declining. This was
now real quick, and understanding, and that was because of the Tea Party revolution, if you will.
Yes.
Argument.
Yes.
But real quick, you dispel one of the big myths. And by the way, your latest article on Gold Standard, I'm going to post. It's fantastic. We only got a minute left, but you tackle so much in a couple weeks ago, your column, President Obama's plan to de-develop, quote unquote, America shifts into high gear. And you expose the idea, a lot of people are saying they just need to compromise, And your point, 1 minute left, Peter, is, hey, they don't need to compromise with policies that are not pro-growth. Yes?
Yes, that de-developed America, that's a quote of one of Obama's top advisors who said when he was one of these learned professors that what we need is a plan to de-develop America. De-develop America. And, that is what, if you look at Obama's policies, that is what he's doing. So the EPA, that was focused on EPA's attack on American energy to raise the cost of energy, which, of course, is going to be another component. Global warming is a complete fraud. I write about that regularly.
Yeah, I mean, this article, this is why people need to read your book, read your articles, because you break it down, and even Crane Durham can understand. Peter, I appreciate your time. I just have one request for you. It's not even to debate Paul Krugman anymore. I think there would be people that would pay a great deal of money, I know I would, per ticket, for you to debate Elizabeth Warren for 1 hour. Please try to set that up. Please.
Well,
we're begging you.
In response to that, I was glad to do it. And maybe she'd be enticed to. Maybe she'd think she's a genius. And
yeah, hey, call her out. You're calling her out right now. And you can do it. Hey, Peter, sincerely, that would be something I would love to carry. But I think America would love to watch. Great education, great work as always. Thanks for being with us.
All right, thank you for having me on the show.
Take care. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Live with honor in your life, compassion in your heart, and always keep the faith in Jesus Christ.